Hello everyone, it's Kay here, and I'm here with something that has just lit me up like a little light bulb, I have to say. And for a lot of you this is going to be old news, but I don't claim to be in in the real world, we'll say, for the sake of arguments. But I was browsing around and checking out videos and things this afternoon, and I came across one of our American crafty friends, Sabrina Oreszkovic. Now I hope I've spelt that right. She also introduces herself as Creative Sabby, so that is how you spell it. I do urge you to go along to this lady's channel. She is a real lovely crafter and is true to crafting at its best. She does things to save money, and she isn't shy about sharing what she's learned, how she's come about it. And I have messaged Sabrina just to say that I am craft lifting her idea, and you know, just as a matter of respect, I will put a link to her channel below in the hope that you will go along and see what she's all about. She does some really clever stuff, albums, all sorts of things. It's just worth having a look. See, it's always nice to come across someone who is on the same wavelength, who likes to craft and to make things look as authentic as they possibly can. And what she's done is Glassene Bags. Now, ladies in Britain, we do have a trouble finding them. I know you can get them on eBay, but it's all about sizes and overall look. And Sabrina has come up with this idea of using white baking paper, although she calls it parchment. In this country, I think it would be the baking paper that you would line your pie dishes with and all that kind of thing. It's almost like tracing paper, but it's got a little bit more about it than that. And it suits the purpose beautifully. Needless to say, on a roll of about 50 metres, the world's your oyster if you wanted to make Glassene bags of all sizes, to put little gifts in, to send in racks, to use in albums, to decorate pages, and so on and so forth. It really is limitless. But I know UK ladies do have trouble finding these things, so I've taken the liberty of using Sabina's ideas just to let the ladies in England know what you're missing, basically. If I have if I'm about to show you something that you've seen before, then obviously you're free to move on. If you haven't seen this before, then I think you'll find it a really good idea. So what I've done, basically, I've made my bags smaller than Sabrina, because my idea in utilising them was actually to make them of a size where I could put some, I don't know, some little cutouts, some punches, you know, that kind of thing, to add into little gifts that I might send out there. So without further ado, I've cut some of the paper to 7 1/4 by 6 3/8, roughly speaking, and this is purely a guideline. You know, you can make them whatever size that pleases you. I just quite like this size, and it is, as Sabrina says in her video, really such a simple way of making little gift bags. So all you need to do, if you use this size of paper, is score at 2, and this baking powder paper is actually quite forgiving. It will let you do it without crackling or breaking in any way. The thing that you have to watch out for is that, needless to say, because of the flimsiness of it. You do need to anchor it very carefully onto your scoreboard, and the other measurement is 5.5, but I've got a seam in my scoreboard, so what I'm going to do is mark up the half there and then move it to the 5 so that I can score more readily. It's one of the folding scoreboards, and it actually doesn't allow you in certain points to score things very readily, and that literally is all the scoring that you need to do. And if you press hard enough, you can just about make out those score lines on your parchment paper. Now Sabrina has done it already, so I'm not going to double it up. Do go along and check out her video, but she has used this through embossing folders, she has inked it, she has tested glues and tapes and that kind of thing, and I've followed all of her instructions, and I have to say that using a wet glue is the best way to seal these little bags. You do need something that will dry quite quickly, and don't be put off by the fact that due to the moisture in the wet glue you do get a little bit of wrinkling, but I promise you, as Sabrina did, once it's dry it is not an issue. So now I'm going to fold this, and I am trying to stay in shot as best I can, just so that you can see how wonderfully easy it is. And you just, with your bone folder or whatever you have handy, reinforce that crease like so, and then bring over the other score. Now you'll notice it's not absolutely central, but that again is the nature of the beast. With a little bit of jiggery pokery, it is possible to make it more central. Now you see you've got your overlap there, which is very, very important. Then using a piece of paper or card, whatever you've got to hand, just pop that inside the little wallet, fold it over like so, and as I say, using a wet glue, preferably something that dries relatively quickly. You just want to run, oops, that's come unglued and stuck there. Oh dear, I'll just screw that back on as best I can and hope for the best. You just need to put a little bit along the edge of that, let it go off for just a couple of seconds so that when you anchor it down it doesn't splodge and make a mess. Fold it over, and by virtue of the paper's lovely texture and forgiveness, once you spread your finger along it, the glue virtually spreads itself into that seam very, very nicely, and by the time that's dry you're not even going to know that glue has been used to anchor it down. Slip out the little bit of spare paper or card or whatever you decide to use on your particular bag, and there you have a lovely little glassine or baking paper tube. And at this point the size is approximately, if I just give it a little measure here, 4.5 by about 6.5, which is a lovely size. I think you'll agree, you know, ideal for just putting little things into to send out in racks. Now to continue in the same way, if you then fold your little tube in half, but avoid creasing here, you just want it to be folded so that you can match your corners. Just cut off a little triangle, top and bottom. Decide which will be the top and which will be the bottom, because the bottom one actually can do with being slightly smaller than the top, so you end up with something that looks like that. Very, very simple. What you then do is, on the smaller corners that you've cut off, just fold them up to the corner of the cut that you've made, and just really, really embellish it so it's nice and smooth. If you have anything showing that you're not quite happy with, just separate the front from the back and trim that back very, very slightly, because it's all about keeping it nice and neat. And you'll see I really just did take off a slither. Then you introduce your little piece of card or paper that you're going to use to stop the glue from being a messy mess, and you just put some on the bottom piece and then on the top piece as well. Bring the piece away from you. If I move that up, I'm almost in shot. Okay, just fold that up around the card like so, and that anchors those two pieces together. And then put some more glue. You don't need a whole lot, just sparingly, and you put that over the flap and just bring it to the main body of the bag like so. And already you've got a really, really neat area that when it is dry, no one will be any the wiser as to it being homemade. I've then got some pinking shear scissors here that just do that squiggly edge on top. Clearly, if you don't have these, then use something that is decorative, or put a little finger thumb mark in it so that you can pull out whatever you put inside. The choice is yours. And then trim off across the top there, and there you have a nice decorative edge to your bag. And then it is simply about decorating, which is so easy. I'll give you an idea of what I've done with mine, but for even more ideas, again, go over to Sabrina's channel, check out what she's done, because not only has she done these in the baking paper, she's also used ordinary papers and put together some stunning vintage style stamped bags in pretty much the same way, and they really are gorgeous. So what I've got here is just a doily, single layer, and I am using a very much favourite idea that I borrowed, craft lifted again, from the wonderful Janet Stokes. That's Jan Stokes 11 on YouTube, who introduced me by virtue of her channel into inking through a doily to get a really pretty pattern. And all you do is place the doily edge where you want it to be, and then ink through with whatever medium you choose to put your ink on with. Now that's moved sadly, so I'm going to have to try and line it up if I can, and I should be jolly lucky. And then just take your ink again and pass it out to the edge of the doily, and what you end up with is that lovely print affair, which is very delicate and really quite pretty. And all I do then is just ink up a little bit more down to that corner. I don't want it to be a fierce and bold statement of colour. It really is just to be there and no more. And then I'm going to do the same again on another piece of the bag like so. A little bit of ink, and I'm just using the Tim Holtz Distress ink here with a really old blender that I've used for a long time. and then I will just ink up those edges like so. It's entirely up to you how you decorate your bags, but I've got a real thing about this. I can't remember what's the colour. It's the Stormy Sky by Tim Holtz, and I just think it's really, really pretty. It's delicate. It's almost a denim effect, depending on what you use it on, and it works superbly. And then if I feel I've got far too much of the paper showing through, I just dust over it. The other thing I've got here is a script stamp from Imagination Crafts. It was very, very reasonable. I can't remember how much it was exactly, but it's Imagination Crafts, and they're based in Dorset, down out by me anyway, in the UK. So I'm just going to take my block, ink up little bits here and there, and just dab on a little bit of print, just randomly, as random as I can get it without going over the top. And then the final thing I've used to decorate is the Stampin' Up. I don't know, it's, oh yes, Beautiful You. And it's the Stampin' Up lady with the umbrella, so it just fits this beautifully. I'm just going to put this on the block beside the script, because you'll see there is quite a disparity in the thickness of the two stamps, so I know I can ink that up safely and apply it to the bag. And I'm going to have a little lady walking on down at the bottom like so, and another little lady up there, and probably another one just off the edge of the page there. And you'll see it is so effective. Now the thing that you have to be aware of with these with this paper is that it's not very porous, so you can't, from that point you'll see it's glistening there on camera. It is still very damp, so you do need, were you to want to put on any other bits and pieces, you need to let that dry thoroughly. And then what I've done, because I've already made some to show you what they're like when they're absolutely finished, there is one, and all I've done is put a little bit of bling on the bag, and it is just to finish, and it's just what I like to do. You might be a ribbon person, you might want to put on some flat flowers. You do have to be mindful of the fact that these bags don't have a gusset, so what you can put in them will be limited, but you'll see they will hold a nice amount. And then if you just fold over the top or do whatever it is you like to do and anchor it with a pen, you've got a really beautiful little bag there. This is another one that I did, all using the same components, but it's a lovely set, so I could either fill them or I could send them out in a rack for someone else to utilise. They are different sizes because I've been practicing. Here's another one which is a bit more busy with a lot more ladies on it, but it's still true to the theme, the script and the umbrellas. And then the final one is very similar to the one that I have just finished, and it's just the lady here with the script and a little bit of bling down at the bottom. So I hope you found this helpful. I've been desperate for a bit of inspiration of late, and finding Sabrina's channel today has really given me such a lift. So I hope that someone else who watches this video feels inspired to go out and have a little go themselves, put their own decorations through. If you make the bags, please mention Sabrina and her channel, which as I say I'll put down below, and you know, give her credit for coming up with such a lovely idea. I'm sure it's not new. I don't know that Sabrina is the lady that first discovered this, but she is certainly someone who has gone out of her way to put it out there for people like me to find and pass on to my crafty friends. So without further ado, I'll say thank you for your time and happy crafting, everyone. Bye bye for now.